This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation.
Hey! Time for school!
Hey, School Success Makers. Welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater, and I'm joined by a friend that we actually interviewed 3 years ago. So this is going to be a really fun episode because we're going to kind of go back in time and see kind of what's going on 3 years later. But we have Granville Jones, who's the founder and executive director of FOSA, which stands for Fruit of the Spirit Academy, and he's based in Austin, Texas. And so today what we're going to do, obviously we're going to kind of recap based on well, we interviewed him 3 years ago, which you guys, I encourage you to go find that. You just Google that episode, his name, and you'll be able to find the episode from 3 years ago, back in 2022. And some things obviously transpired that we're going to kind of recap and then go on to like what is happening now with their school. And what I'm really excited about for this episode is for you guys to see that sometimes things don't go exactly as you planned them or wanted them to go in your school journey or your school launch journey. And that's okay, because sometimes maybe that's what it was supposed to happen, what God wanted to have happen for your school, whatever it might be. And so we're going to kind of get that story today. And I'm hoping and I'm praying that this will be an encouragement for you guys as school leaders. If you are in the process of maybe starting a school or you're in the middle of it and you feel like it maybe isn't going exactly as you wanted it to go, that is okay. And we're going to hear Granville's story here in a minute. But before I jump into all of that and steal any thunder away from him, I want to introduce him, pass it off to him to introduce himself. So Granville Jones, welcome to the podcast again, sir.
I appreciate it, Mitchell. Pleasure being here. It's hard to believe that 3 years went by that fast, but it seemed like I blinked and 3 years are gone. So I always sign my emails Carpe Diem, which means seize the day. And, life is so short that we have to make the most out of every day. And so 3 years I blinked and we're here. So it's been amazing. So thank you for having me back again. I am Granville Jones. I'm the executive director and founder of Fruit of the Spirit Academy, located based out of Austin, Texas. We are a national online school. And so I think part of this episode, we'll be talking about how we transitioned from the original vision to where we are today. So I'm excited about being here.
Awesome, man. Well, welcome back. And before we dive into all the nitty gritty, I feel like the audience has come to expect the same question that I ask everybody to start out. And I typically don't give people a heads up on this one, but you did get this question 3 years ago. So if I was to visit you in Austin, Texas, which I've been to Austin once, I do love that area. I think it's beautiful and there's obviously stuff to do everywhere. But if I was to visit, from your personal opinion, what would you say, Mitchell? You need to eat this and do this to experience Austin, Texas?
Okay, great question. I would say to eat, you have to experience Texas barbecue. Now, there's a huge debate here in Austin about which location, which restaurant has the best barbecue. I have tasted, I think, all here, and I'm a strong advocate of Terry Black's barbecue. So I highly recommend. I'm not getting any kickback from them. This is truly coming from my heart. But try Terry Black's barbecue when you come to Austin. I don't think you will regret it. As far as what to do here, we are a really outdoorsy town. A lot of outdoor expeditions and exercise and fitness and things of that nature. So I highly recommend that you visit Zilker Park. Zilker Park is a fantastic park, just wonderful scenery. You can rent boards, you can rent boats, you can swim. It's just a fabulous place. So if you enjoy the water, if you enjoy outdoor activities, Austin is a place for you. If you enjoy Texas barbecue, Texas is a place for you.
Perfect. All right. I'll make note of it next time I go to Texas, and hopefully it's again soon. I do like the good state of Texas. So
Yes.
as we jump into today's episode, here's what I'd like to do. If you could kind of bring us back 3 years ago to when we first kind of chatted and you were in the process of starting FOSA, kind of give us like the background of like what was going to happen and then what transpired to have you kind of pivot, pause, and then shifting to 2025. So let's hear kind of like the backstory real quick, and we'll kind of just, again, I'm going to ask you questions to kind of get the backstory of like now what is happening with FOSA in 2025.
Sure. All right. Appreciate that. So back in 2022, actually December of 2020 was when I first got the reality, the vision to write down everything that I received about a new school called Fruit of the Spirit Academy. I started working on it, and then I still was a school administrator, working for different schools. I was a head of school here in Austin, Texas, and March, April of 2022, I felt like it was time to move on and start FOSA. So I started meeting with donors. I started meeting with potential families. I started looking for locations because at that time, Mitchell, I strongly was convinced that we would be K-12, that we would be brick and mortar, that we would have in time multiple locations, multiple cities, multiple states, but all brick and mortar, K-12, unapologetically Christian private education. What led me to start FOSA was during my time as a school administrator at various settings and schools, I saw either a strong emphasis on academics and not that much of an emphasis on spirituality or depth of relationship with Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, or I would see, honestly, academics really low. And so the vision that I wanted to bring to the table, the different offering I wanted was a school that offered both strong emphasis on spiritual growth and development, centered around a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, but also great academics. And so that's what prompted me to start that. So back in 2022, when I first started meeting with people, late fall, late spring, early summer, folks had a lot of traction. And I was thinking that we probably were going to be able to open in fall of 2022. But as I got deeper into it after our podcast, the reality began to set in that my funding wasn't where it needed to be, that the location was very hard to lock down. Here in Austin, things have improved now, but as far as rentals and leasing and the cost of acquiring a brick and mortar building was astronomical. And so it became obvious more and more as I got closer to the hopeful anticipated opening date of fall of 2022 that was not going to be a reality. One thing about me, if I don't feel like everything's in place the right way, because I believe in doing things the right way, first rate, top quality, I did not feel like we were there. And so myself and the board made the decision to postpone it. Fast forward to the fall of 2022, all of a sudden, only way I can explain it is it seemed like the wind left our sails. And I was not able to gain traction. At that point, again, we were thinking about pivoting to opening fall of 2023. But the fall of 2022, I was not able to find potential donors that really seemed like they were ready to jump in and help and participate. I didn't really gauge a lot of strong interest from families and students in the area. My board and I decided, hey, look, let's just go ahead and lay it down. And once momentum returns, then let's reevaluate when we could possibly open. So in the interim, I moved on to be a school administrator at another private Christian school and did that for over 2 years. And then this spring, it became available, the opportunity reopened to revisit opening FOSA. Overnight, it went from no wind in the sails from fall of 2022 to the spring of 2025. Every meeting I had, people were like, yes, we want to partner. Yes, we see this. It was just instantaneous. So when we laid this at the altar of God back in fall of 2022, I vowed, Lord, I'm not going to pick this back up again until I feel as though we have wind at our sails again. Suddenly, Mitchell, it went from 0 to 60. Okay. And so we made the decision to go ahead and open up for this fall. It's just been amazing, the difference in what I had intended FOSA to be to what God intended it to be. And I know that's really the crux of what we're going to be talking about here today. And I'm excited about relaying how that transition took place.
Hey, school success makers, Mitchell here. I just want to take a really quick break from the show to give a big, huge shout out to the Herzog Foundation. I absolutely love the Herzog Foundation. I've been friends and partners with them for a couple years now, but we're bringing it to a whole new level. And I'm excited to share that our very own School Success podcast is now featured on the Herzog Foundation Podcast Network. The Herzog Foundation is a powerhouse of resources designed to support schools like yours, from free training events through the Herzog Foundation Institute to their incredible online news publication, The Lion, and of course, our new podcast, Home. They have everything you need to stay informed and inspired. And if you're dreaming of starting your own Christian school or co-op, don't miss their online course, Schoolbox. It's a fantastic resource to help you get started on the right foot. At School Success, we're proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation to bring you these valuable tools and insights. So visit herzogfoundation.com to explore all they have to offer. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on these amazing opportunities for growth and success. And I love all the people over there, and I know you guys will too. So please go check them out, and you won't be disappointed. Now, back to the show. Love it. So, I know, like, you obviously feel this way, and I'm sure the guests, I know we don't always all have Christian listeners and guests, but kind of just share like our heart on this. And I know your heart on this as well, is like, our timing is not always God's timing. God's timing is not always our timing. And so you think about, yes, we want to go through with this. And then God's like, not right now. And one of the things I'd love to just encourage you with, and not maybe you don't even need this, but kind of to share it with you, because it was some of the best advice I ever got from my pastor that I was under when I was a youth pastor for years. And it was when my wife and I were living in Alaska, and we felt we were being called to move, and we weren't sure where. Ended up moving to Florida, where we are currently. And he pulled me aside before we left, and he's like, hey, I just want you to know that when you move to Florida, if you get there and it's not what you thought it was supposed to be, and you feel like you have to move back, he goes, I want you to never for a second doubt that that's not what God really intended for you to do in the first place. Because he said a lot of times we'll do something, it won't go smoothly, and we'll immediately go, man, I heard wrong. I made the wrong decision. And you'll hear tons of people in your ear saying, I told you weren't supposed to do that. That was not what you're supposed to do, and all that. Yeah. And he goes, and just because you go there doesn't mean it's also going to be perfect, and it's going to go smoothly when you move as well. Yeah. And when we got to Florida, it was not smooth right away. Like, it was a little rough. We weren't sure what was going to happen next. And we ended up, obviously, we stayed. And so my encouragement for you and other people that are listening is, if you have felt God calling you into something, doesn't mean like he might tell you, hey, actually, wait, I want you to pause. I want you to be faithful in pausing for 2 years, 3 years, however long it is, or pivoting into something else. And it doesn't mean that you heard wrong if that happens. It does not mean that you heard wrong. It might be like, God did tell you that, and now he's like, actually, now I want you to do this and see if you're faithful. And I was just reading this week in Genesis with like Abraham and Isaac, and it's like, telling him like, hey, I want you to sacrifice your son. And he's like, well, wait, this is the son you told me you're going to bless generations with. You want me to sacrifice my son? And I just thought about this whole thing, like the faithfulness that he had to walk multiple days to the Mount Moriah, and to potentially like he was going to sacrifice his son, and like he was willing. And so I think a lot of times God puts us in situations, and I feel like that's also what he did with you, Granville, was like put you in a situation and go, will you be faithful and pushing through to this, and then faithful to pause, and faithful now to pick it up again and do a different direction with him. And it sounds like that's exactly what you have done. I'll get off my high horse for a second. I just was like, man, I'm really encouraged by you pivoting and being faithful to wait. And I think a lot of times we have a hard time in our culture of waiting and being like, well, wait, I'm supposed to do this thing. And so I just want to applaud you for following the Lord on that, and being faithful, and then pausing and waiting to do what you guys are doing now.
If I can add to that, that reminds me, I think it's Psalm 105. Maybe around verse 14, 15, where it talked about until the promise arrived that Joseph was tested to see whether or not his faith would persevere. And I feel like that has been part of my walk, is God was saying, okay, son, do you trust me? And do you trust my timing? And my answer is always going to be yes.
Amen. So when you went into the spring of 2025 and you started talking to donors, were you already talking to them about, hey, we're going to do an online school? Or was it still at that point going, we want to do a brick and mortar still? What was that transition? And when did that transition happen to where you're like, it's going to be online now?
Yes. So a great question. No, at that time, early in the spring of 2025, a few months ago, I was still thinking brick and mortar. And so once I started reaching out to different locations and different personnel opportunities and different potential donors, I was still thinking that originally. What changed that for me, Mitchell, was once I started reaching out to different schools and different families to see what need was there. All of a sudden, the online meetings that I had, just the door opened. I believe that God opens and closes doors, and He also has three answers. One is yes, that's always great for us, right? Another's no. Sometimes that can be disappointing, but the one that's most perplexing is the not yet, because often the not yet he doesn't speak. He just is silent, right? And so what I look for in my life are open doors. And so once I started having these meetings in the spring, and online opportunities became like a big push that families were looking for. Once I started meeting with different community colleges and different universities across the United States, like all of them were saying, well, we can partner online with you. And so the online opportunity just opened wide. I was like, oh, hold it. So, of course, I revisited that with the board, and the board was like, listen, if that's the way God is blowing us, then we're open to it. And so we made a pivot organizationally that we were open to that.
Amen. And so let's rewind 3 years ago, because I want this to also be, of course, an encouragement for any school that's listening that is maybe in the about to launch stage, thinking about launching, but also maybe they're about to launch and it is not going like what they're like. This is not what I thought it was going to be. Kind of to walk me through, what was that like for you emotionally? Because I know you obviously you have family. You were like, oh, this is going to be what's new, and then suddenly it's not happening. Oh, now I got to go to a job for a couple of years. I love to just kind of hear your heart and your kind of your story behind what was that the fall of 2022 into like 2023 like for you, of like, man, did I hear wrong? And then moving, just kind of that whole thing. I know it's a big question, but like, what was that like for you in that holding pattern?
Oh, great question. The one word that comes to mind immediately is humbling. It is humbling. I think about Proverbs 16:9 that talks about man makes his plans, but God orders his steps. And so when you really read that in context and meditate on it, what it really is saying is we really aren't in control. That really He is. And so humbling in the fact of I had a 50 plus page business plan that I know came from God. So I never questioned whether or not I missed God or I was wrong. I just always thought, okay, He's telling us not yet. He's not saying no. He's simply saying not yet. So that was a source of encouragement for me to never question whether or not I was making a mistake, but I just needed to wait on God's timing, not go ahead of Him. We never want to be ahead of God or behind Him. We want to be in step with Him, right? And so that was my goal. So when I waited, and this spring of 2025, I saw the wind return to the sails. I was like, okay, Lord, we're going to walk with you. And He opened doors that I couldn't open.
Man, and I want that to speak to the people who are listening too, of going, man, like, don't, what's the saying? Don't try and pry. Was it, you might be able to know it better than me, but don't pry open a door that got us shut. And so you think about, like, I think a lot of times we try and open the door and we're like, come on, and you're prying it open. He's like, well, I already closed that one. Like,
Right.
wait for the other one to open, or maybe the door will open. It's just not going to open right now. So I feel like you did that. The door closed and you didn't walk away and go do something else for the rest of your life. You were like, well, I'll wait for it opens, and it opened, and you still walk through. You still were faithful in the little things. And so I love that. I'm hoping that that's an encouragement to those that are listening too, of maybe God did close the door. Doesn't mean He's not going to open it again, or open a different one for you and for you to step into in that season. And I love that in that holding pattern, Granville, that you stepped into a school leadership role in the meantime. So you weren't like, all right, well, woe is me. I'm just going to like sit around on the couch all day and do nothing. You're like, I'm still going to be in education. I'm going to pour into kids' lives and families' lives in the meantime and be, faithful in the season that God has me in. And I feel like all of that prepped and prepared you to jump into what you're doing now.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I love that. So as you're prepping now for this online thing, you pivoted from in person now to online. What how does that differ for you? So you're going from, again, looking for rental space, obviously you're still talking to donors then. Now you're switching, you're still talking to donors, but you're going, hey, this is fully online. The marketing is going to be different to get families and students. The management of that is going to be different. What does that look like? Because maybe there's somebody listening going, oh man, maybe I should do an online school, or maybe they're in the process of doing that. I know we work with a couple online schools here at School Success, and it's like, it is a different makeup of the marketing side of it, the management side of that for schools, the fundraising side of that for schools is different. So love to kind of hear what that looks like for you as pursuing online versus in person.
Absolutely. Well, the online really what I think opens up is possibilities. Because we now offer online, we can have a greater reach. Because now instead of just being in Austin, we can be across the entire United States of America. We see it as fulfillment of Matthew 28:19. It says, go and make disciples to all the nations. So the original game plan for us was to start in Austin, starting small and then just letting God grow us in His perfect timing. But we were thinking too small, Mitchell, as now I reflect back, because online now allows us to not only be in Austin, but we also have San Antonio, we also have Dallas, we also have Houston, we also have Corpus Christi. I'm talking to some families in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. I'm talking to families in the Richmond, Virginia area. I'm starting to broker relationships into the Florida, and then wherever else God wants us to be. So online opens up possibilities that a brick and mortar school limits you in as far as your amount of reach. So now we have a national reach, opportunity for national reach. Also, because we have been able to forge partnerships with multiple colleges and universities across the United States of America, now we can offer dual credit to students all the way across the United States of America. Okay. Whereas if we just were housed here in a brick and mortar in Austin, Texas, we can only offer opportunities to students and families here in Austin. So it's absolutely enhanced and broadened our reach. The other thing about online, some other benefits are with school bullying being the way it is now, with school violence the way it is now, here in Austin and most major metropolitan areas with the traffic and all that, you alleviate all of that. So online is not for everyone, but I think the benefits by far outweigh the negatives. Also, FOSA, we are now only going to be a high school, 9 through 12. One of my favorite movies, this is going to probably sound funny. One of my favorite movies was a movie that came out, I believe it was 2005. We have 3 grown children now. But in 2005, all of them were kids. And so, of course, as a good father would, I subjected myself to going to these animated movies with my children. There's a movie in the early 2000s, I think 2005, called Robots. Are you familiar with it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Robots has a character named Mr. Big Weld. Do you remember him?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Big Weld said something in that movie that from the first day I heard it, it just got in me. And the quote is, see a need, feel a need. And I try to live my life by that. And so seeing a need and feeling a need is ministry. That's what it is. So what is the need? The need is I started doing deeper research during my time of waiting for God and FOSA. I never stopped working on it. I just kind of didn't push. And so it's wisdom as you're waiting, keep working. Don't stress. Don't try to push a closed door, but continue to prepare and plan. So I was doing that. And as I was doing that, I did some research on private schools across the United States. And according to the National Center for Educational Statistics, they say that only 40% of private schools actually go through 12th grade. And so I started reflecting on that. I went back to the board and presented an opportunity if less than 50% of private schools go all the way to 12th grade, that is a niche for us. That's an open market for us that we can take advantage of. And so that was also part of the pivot, that we are now only high school, and with the dual credit options. Also, Mitchell, in a brick and mortar, there's a lot of limits on personnel. You have limited spacing, you have limited personnel, okay? So at my previous school, we had 7 advanced placement course offerings for high school students. For those who aren't familiar with AP classes, what it is it's college level classes. And at each spring, you take a AP exam that, of course, correlates to that course. And if a student scores a 3, 4, or 5 on that final exam, it can turn into college credit, okay? At my previous school, we only had 7 of those classes available due to space, limited space, and personnel. Well, now through FOSA, we have a full gamut where we offer over 20 of those AP courses online. So it is online opens up just a vast array of possibilities that a traditional brick and mortar just cannot.
Hey, I just want to take a really quick break from the podcast to highlight one of our amazing partners and sponsors, ClassReach. If you're a new school administrator or founder and are struggling to keep up with all the hassles of planting a new school, like collecting tuition, communicating with parents, or handling student data, then you need ClassReach. ClassReach is the all-in-one software that helps with everything from admissions and tuition to classroom management and parent communications. Sign up for a free consultation with one of their school specialists and see how ClassReach can help your school grow today. You guys can check them out online, classreach.com. They are a kingdom-minded company, and I love their leadership team there. I've become friends with a lot of them. They truly are a great company. I support them, and I love them, and you guys will love them too. Check them out at classreach.com. Now, back to the show. I love this, and I actually want to touch on the Big Well thing because I do like the movie Robots, and I remember watching it when I was a kid, because I was so my kid. Your kids must be around my age, so this is because I did grow up with that movie. And
Make me feel old, Mitchell, won't you? Make me feel old.
I'm 32. Is that around your kid's age?
My oldest is 27.
There you go. So very close.
Yes.
So I want to touch on that because I think that's actually a really good, even just a marketing point I'll touch on. And that's obviously, we talk with schools all week long about marketing their school, how they message, how they get their word out about their school. And so see a need, fill a need. To kind of touch on that real quick for those listening, obviously a lot of you guys have started schools, whether it's Christian schools, private schools, charter schools. You guys saw a need. You're like, oh, there needs to be a school here. There's not a ton of competition, or you saw that there wasn't an angle. They didn't have a classical school, or they didn't have a Christian school, or whatever it is. And so you're like, I'm going to just start a school. And I think a lot of times we'll see people go, oh, there's this need. And if I just build a school, we're going to fill it. No problem, because there's a need and I'm going to fill it. And so that's not always the case. I mean, yes, maybe you put it in there, people are like, oh my gosh, it's awesome. But now you obviously need to market the school. You need to still hire good teachers. You need to hire good leadership. You need to make sure that the messaging of the school, the product, the service that you provide, the problem that you solve. If you guys make sure you're preparing your messaging to make sure, like, hey, this is what people are looking for. Maybe they want a Christian school in an area that doesn't really have that, and they want that for their children. Well, then obviously you need to mention that in your marketing. It's obviously the same for you, Granville, as you're starting this high school. It's obviously Christian. And so you want to be unapologetically Christian. And so making sure that the messaging is very clear in what that is. I know we were dealing with a school that was trying to figure out how to say that without being mean to the public school system, for instance, because they're like, hey, the public school has a specific agenda in this area that they were pushing, that they were like, we don't align with it, and we don't agree with it, but we don't want to be super polar opposite and pushing people away. And so I suggested a phrase that we had suggested for another client, which was, hey, our school, the specific school we were talking about was a homeschool, and they said homeschool based on your values. And so it's something going, most people can align going, ooh, I can homeschool based on my values. And maybe their values are Christian and they want to push a specific thing. And they were able to align with that, with putting that out there to go, I think people will read between the lines of saying, hey, your values you can teach when you do this at our school, and we align with your values or whatever. And so making sure you're very clear. Here's the problem we solve. Here's how we help you, how we partner with you as a school, and putting that out there, but not knowing that if I just build a school, because there needs to be a Christian school here, and if I just build it, we're going to be great. We're going to be able to pay our teachers the top dollar. We're going to be able to get the great donors. Like, there's still work. There's still a lot of work involved in doing that, and you need to put in the work. Obviously, at Granville, you know this. You're talking to donors. You're doing all the heavy lifting early on. But I encourage you, obviously, your messaging, making sure it's very clear. This is who we are, and this is the problem we solve for your families. Which I'm very confident you're doing that already. But just wanted to mention it for those that are listening.
Yes, and watch Robots, everyone. It's a great movie. If I can
That's a good
piggyback
one.
off that,
So,
if I can
yeah.
piggyback off that as well, one thing I think is important about seeing a need is not just seeing a need that you see, but finding a need that is communicated with you by others. Okay. So, for example, in my time as a private Christian school administrator, of course, you have conversations, some formal, some informal, with parents, students, staff members, and you just kind of download all the information that you receive. And what I received is a lot of frustration with the lack of dual credit offerings at a lot of schools. And so I started hearing that more and more, particularly at my previous location. And I realized that was an opportunity because I had so many families saying, Mr. Jones, like, where can we go that can give us in a private Christian setting that can open up a door for us to where we can possibly allow our child, while they're a high school student, to accumulate as many college credits as possible to save time and money at the next level. And so I recognized that was a need. And so that also is part of our niche once I started receiving that feedback. Another important feedback that we monitored was spirituality and growth and development. I started hearing a lot of concerns about some of the Bible courses not being relevant, not more being from a 30,000 foot view instead of really engaging with the Bible and digging deep. And so what was birthed out of that, if you go to our website, FOSAFalcons.org, FOSA Falcons.org, and you click on the biblical courses, we have developed 17 engaging, relevant courses that students have expressed already they are very interested in learning more about, such as a deep dive into the fruit of the Spirit, such as biblical sexuality. Mitchell, let me tell you, at not just public schools, but Christian schools, it's been a real apprehension about touching, tackling sexuality. Well, we're going to be unapologetic about that. And so that's not going to be for everyone. But no, if you come to FOSA, that's going to that's going to be what we offer. You don't have to take that course, but that is part of the engaging, unique Bible courses that we offer. We also offer a course in witnessing. Once you have a conversion, once you have accepted Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, like me as a teenager, how do I share that with my peer group? How do I share that within my circle of influence? And so we have engaging courses like that. We have some families that are joining us just for our Bible courses. So another unique factor of FOSA is you can join us full time, or you can join us as a supplemental school. What that means is you stay with your current school, whether it be private or public, and then you can take dual credit courses and AP courses on the side through FOSA. And then there are some families, again, that are so intrigued by our unique and relevant Bible courses that they are just signing up to take, one-offs on the Bible courses with us. So again, it's just listening, it's receiving the feedback. It's not me thinking there's a need, but me hearing a recognized need and being willing to step in and fill that.
And what I love about that, Granville, and I want that to speak to those listening too, is that you listening to those that are the actual customer in this situation and not being like, not discounting that, I guess, because you go, I think a lot of times as leaders, we hear something, go, nah, people don't want that, or there's no way people want that. But you're like, to kind of swallow your pride enough to go, man, multiple people keep mentioning this is something they want, or this is something they need, or they're looking for, and going, well, shoot, I didn't think that would be something. Let's do it anyways. And actually like stepping forward with that and out in faith. And that's that takes a lot, because I think a lot of times schools are like, oh, there's no way if we offer this course, people are going to want it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, they want this. So surveying your families is very ideal. Surveying potential families, super ideal to see, are they actually interested in what you have to offer, and then filling that need. So I love that. And I agree. I want to make sure we stay good on time here. So here's what I want to do. I want to pivot into kind of like my final question, but we can kind of spend a little bit on this if we need to, is you've been doing this a while now. You have obviously a great story of like pivoting into this. If you were to share, and you can share more than one, but if you share like one piece of advice for the school leaders that are listening from what you've kind of gone through, what you've seen in these last few years, what would that piece of advice or encouragement be for those that are listening?
Oh, great question. The first thing I would say is don't become married to your vision. Be open to change. Be someone who always looking for continual improvement. I think sometimes we can get prideful, and if we aren't careful, we get married to our vision and we like just hold on to it for status quo sake. But be open to change and be open to continual improvement. So I would say that probably my biggest lesson in my adventure so far is just be open to change and not be married as much.
Love it. Awesome. Well, hey, Granville, I just want to thank you, obviously, for taking time to be on the podcast again, but also for just your story and being open to sharing it of what it was 3 years ago and what it is now. I'm excited for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing what God does with FOSA there in Austin and across the country this coming year. And so wishing you nothing but the best, and looking forward to seeing what God does with it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to Granville for taking time and being on the podcast today. I love having somebody on that was on 3 years ago and I was on again, and kind of hearing their story and their background. And I'm hoping that was an encouragement to you guys wherever you are in your school journey. If you're starting one, if you've been in one for a while, know that there's not only just one way to do this, there's many ways to do this. So as always, hoping you guys are able to take at least one thing away from today's episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. But before you guys go, as always, want to make sure you are aware of our 3 free resources here at School Success. The first one is, of course, the podcast. You're listening to it right now. We're dropping episodes every single week on Monday mornings. We want to make sure you guys aren't missing out on those. So please, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. And if you love our content, which I'm really hoping you do since you're listening to this right now, we would love a 5-star review. Just pause, go do a 5-star review. That really does mean a lot to us. We put a lot of work into putting these episodes out for you guys. So that would mean the world. So if you do that, awesome. And then next, the second one is on our website, schoolsuccessmakers.com. Top right-hand corner, there is a button, the School Success Report. Want to make sure you guys are getting that emailed directly to you every single week. Different articles the team has either found or written to make you guys better than you are every single week. So it's a way you can kind of say, hey, what's going on in education, and make yourself a better school leader. So make sure you are getting that in your inbox every single week. And last but not least, if you're on Facebook, we would love for you to be a part of our free community on there. It is called School Success Makers. I'm personally in there. I would love to see you guys in there as well. Get to know other people in the school space, ask questions, grow as a leader, and make some friends. All right. So go join that group. And I think that's it. I think that's all I got for you guys. So we will be back here next week with another awesome guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.